Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast on FusionX. And joining me today, we have Aldino and Bryn.
What's up?
So a little lighter today, but that's all right. We still got a good crowd. Good well wishes off to Nabil. He's not feeling well today. Michelle is she's doing something. She's not sleeping, but she's doing something. So
something's happening.
So, it's all good. Lots of news out. We had Gamescom last week. We have the live letter from last night. So we're just going to go ahead.
Too late watching that.
Yeah, it's weird now because I'm on the West Coast. So it's like, it's not that late for me anymore, which is nice.
It's not that bad.
It's like when we were setting up like recording. I'm like, yeah, we'll do it at this time Pacific, this time Eastern. I'm like, wait a minute. No, that's 3 hours. We got to move it. I'm getting there. So real quick here, we're going to recap just a couple of things from some interviews out of Gamescom. You want to take that away for us there, Charles?
Sure. Man, there were so many interviews that week. We've got
lots of
there was quite a few interviews. I know there was a Reddit thread. I forget what site it was. I don't want to bash any site, but it was basically like all they asked were like boring questions that we already knew the answers to. And I'm like, well, that's not their audience. So exactly. we did have some really good chunks from some of the sites that are more familiar with the game or are active players and stuff. So we got some stuff from RPG site Nova Crystallis and Dual Shocker. So we'll go ahead, run over some of that, and then we'll talk about what was in the live letter from last night as well.
Yes. So Square Enix president and Yoshi P have been talking about more localization teams in-house for more languages. They're trying to take this everywhere, I guess. I mean,
yeah. So
it's a great idea.
It's interesting too, right?
Mm-hmm.
With I said it was interesting too because a lot of the stuff that we'll cover about the live letter, a lot of it was stuff that players have been asking for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the stuff that players have been asking for a while are localizations for Spanish.
Yeah.
They kind of even somewhat teased it. We talked about it, like I think maybe.
When they had the intro page, or whatever, the website.
Promotion. It's like, the game's in English and the languages. But here's a Spanish,
Here's like a how to start page or whatever, and I think it was it Portuguese too? I want to say.
I think so.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. But I mean, Yoshida's been going to Mexico for a few years now, doing stuff. He just did that event. I want to say like last month or so. I forget the campus thing.
Campus.
Yeah, 14 was there.
What's important to note though, because it's that like I always run into this is that a lot of people, because you said it like. A lot of these things that they kind of showed off as part of these interviews, and then when we get into the live letter, stuff that we've been asking for a while, and sometimes that's how long it takes. And so, because I remember, like, just to compare this kind of, if you think to 11, like, 11's still getting these content updates, and it's like, like they had worked on that stuff, and so it finally finishes and comes out, and it appears like they're still working on it. It's just they're not probably taking on new projects, and so for a lot of these things they were either on the back burner for a long time or just taking their time to get be able to release.
Well, and I think the
like
perfect
this moment right now is like
perfect example of this, I think, without trying to jump all over the place. We're going to talk about PvP changes come up in a little bit. We're finally getting a spectator mode that was announced in 2013 during the 6th live letter. So, 6th live letter, 31st live letter. Hey, it's coming. Like, so it takes a little bit of time to do stuff.
This should be really called the Alexander podcast because we're going to be doing some time traveling.
There you go.
Jumping back to remember live letter 7? Here it is. Sorry.
Back then, Yoshida had a tiny office and a whiteboard.
I'm the worst person for that. So Yoshi P, in this interview, once had someone ask if Heidelin is part of the Ivalice Alliance, which is my favorite.
That's that whole thing, kind of like back when they had when they were doing a bunch of 7 stuff. They had like the compilation of Final Fantasy 7. Ivalice Alliance was 12. It was what was it had a GBA game, Revenant Wings, I think it was called.
Yeah, Revenant Wings.
And it's like, this is part of this thing. And that's kind of how they were running things back then. That's why kind of when 13 was announced, like we have 13 and we have Versus 13 and we have Aikido 13 and all these 13 games and they're part of this big thing. And so yeah, and so people are saying, and this is something, it's weird too, because normally I wouldn't mention this from an interview, but the way he talked about it kind of made me raise an eyebrow a little bit.
Because he kind of deflects and he says, this is just speculation, but I can't answer it.
Yeah, he's like, this is just player speculation, but I can't answer that question if Heidelin is part of the Evil East Alliance. But that goes directly against what he said earlier, which was, and I quote, "To be absolutely clear, there is no connection between Final Fantasy XIV's Heidelin and Final Fantasy XII's Evil East. Likewise, there's no connection with Final Fantasy XI's Vana'diel. Each are their own individual world. Based on this, there are conditions between things that appear in the world, and we'll be revealing more in the future." So we know there's some, dimensional hopping, and kind of that's just kind of Final Fantasy canon at this point to explain how that kind of stuff happens. But for him to be like, it's not connected at all, like putting my foot down, and he's like, I can't answer that if it's part of it or not. It's like, is he just playing with us? Did he change his mind? Like, what's going on?
Now, obviously, it seems like we're getting a lot. They're at least leading us to believe there's a lot of Final Fantasy 10 kind of influencing like 4.0, etc. But
we'll definitely be talking.
I would love to see more Evil East's influence. And one of the cool things that like you kind of see it all throughout 14 is the art director was the art director of 12.
Sure, so there's a lot of people that worked on 12 that work on 14. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even just the simple targeting lines. I remember when they brought that into like that was a part of 12, and it was so helpful. And obviously they're remaking 12, and I'm so excited to be able to play kind of the international version of that finally.
Oh yeah, soon.
But soon. I would love to see, and this is maybe that it's like, okay, he's clear, and this was a while ago, but maybe they're like, well, yeah, like here's every, and it might not be the 4.0 patch that Evil East has a bigger influence. We might, but there's who's to say that we can't see 5 or 6, 6.0 or something like that. Sure. Who knows? Anyway.
Yeah, and I think for people that are unfamiliar with some of the lore going on right now, just kind of dig into the Ascians a little bit. We have, I think it was a Lorecraft article that we put up quite a while ago. I think it was like, what's in an Ascian name or something. All the Ascians are tied back to the Espers, and 12 had. In 12's lore, they had, scions and stuff, and so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of borrowed from that. Zodiark was, a thing in the Evil East games, in Tactics and 12 and all that stuff. So it's all, from Final Fantasy, just like, the Crystal Tower and Zandy were in 3, but it's a little more heavy from that coming into 14. And I think that's why people are asking, is this part of Evil East? Because that's some pretty deeply ingrained stuff in the Evil East lore. And so to also have that in 14, it's kind of like, well, maybe there's a connection. I don't know. Of course, I'm still going to say no. I'm just going to assume that Yoshida's messing with these guys. Right. He's been in interviews all day getting asked, so how do you feel about the game now that 3 years has passed? It's, he's, the same question over and over again in like 3 different languages. And he's like, yeah, I'll just mess with them, have some fun. I wouldn't take it as to mean anything, but I thought it was kind of interesting that, something to look at. There was an interview with our friends at Nova Crystallis, too. We'll go ahead and go down those.
We've got Yoshi P wants to add breakdancing, but the animation team would probably have a hard time with it. I can see everyone in Alda just...
Can you imagine, those, the people, like, at the animation team, like, all right, let's come in to work today, check your email, and breakdancing. I quit. I'm done.
Yep,
I can't.
It. We're done.
That could be the most fun day, though, because it's like, okay, we're gonna need to hire some breakdancers.
It's like, all right, Yoshida, if you want to come down to the thing, we'll mocap you breakdancing, Yoshida, if you would like.
That'd be neat.
Mocap is something near and dear to me because that's what I work in, and it would be really cool to come in one day and just have the whole team of breakdancers, and you're like, oh crap, it's going down. We're about to see something.
Now I'm kind of thinking back to the Ibisu launch event for 1.0 with Tanaka and Uematsu doing their little like dance on the stage.
I would venture a bet that this is Yoshi P wanting to do it. He's floating it out there to see if the community says, please do that. Yeah. And so then he goes,
all right,
they want it.
But animation team, they want it. Didn't
let's create the budget.
The players want it.
Let's get that breakdancing in the game. Get that hoverboard.
There you go.
Also in the interview, it was the first of the talk of making Alexander Savage a little bit easier in the next tier, which, there's a lot of talk about the mid-core raiders kind of falling out because of a 7S, a 8S being just too hard.
What do you think about that, like, Charles, like, just generally? Because you're doing more the end game rating, right?
Yes.
So how does that, because I would classify myself as that mid-tier, like, I'm like, oh, maybe I will try it more, but how does that make you feel? Because I kind of was like, I think people still love that challenge.
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash to it in the raiding community. I mean, like, I'm not super hardcore anymore. I used to be in other games, but, you want to still have that feeling of, I did this. Do you see how hard that was? But I made it through. This team, we did it. I mean, they had some other comments about, like DPS being too hard to do, and that was their takeaway from it. But I don't know. I'm willing to see what it changes to. I don't think they would make it too easy. I mean, we have normal mode, and Yoshi P has said normal mode will exist for a reason, So I'm not mad about it yet.
Normal mode is fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The impression that I get, too, and I think they talked about this a little bit with the Feast as well, it's they want to make it, not necessarily so it's like the most impossible thing ever, but I think what's important for them is that more than anything, it's approachable. Right. That players will at least want to think that maybe they have a chance or they can complete it. Because there's a lot of players that are like, oh, like if I go into the Feast, it's like a 4v4, like maybe I'm not that great, I'm going to hold the whole team back, or I'm going to go into this raid, I'm not like the super great, most amazing player, I don't know if I should even try it. And so I think by doing this, they're doing some stuff at the Feast, they're going to be adjusting, difficulty for Alexander Savage. I think they want more players to at least try that content, because right now people aren't even going into it, is the impression that I get. And so they want to make sure that it feels a little more friendly to the mid-core, the more casual players, instead of just that hardcore group.
Right. Well, it would be interesting to see, and they could approach this many different ways, but like just tying it into like PvP into the Feast, they bring it in custom matches, and they talked about that in the live letter, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. But that's great. That's a great move, because it's like, hey, let's just get together and play and have fun, and then get a comfort level for this. Right. The other option that they could also bring in is that they could bring in those type of games, but where you are facing off against computer controlled, like, bots or things like that. So if you were that player, you're like, well, maybe I'm not good enough to compete against real players, but let me get a feel for the level, for the map, with the strategies that we could implement, and maybe we can see, all of that serves to bring people in and make it exactly what you said, Andrew, which is more approachable. And so I fully support it. I don't. My fear is that that difficulty goes away, and people go and they clear it so quickly that it's like, okay, what else is there to challenge me? Because and obviously that's a smaller part of the community. And I don't think the answer regarding Alexander is to have normal, mid, ultra hard. It's like no. It's going to be a balance, and they talked about. We'll talk about it. I think probably in the live letter, and if it's not in the notes, then we'll talk about it at some point later in the show. But Yoshi P talked about not just like the difficulty, but it had to do with the 60 rotations and jobs and things like that. I was like, well, that makes sense, but we'll dive.
Yeah, I remember. I was thinking about that too. I don't know if it's in here. We'll see if we can make sure to remember to bring that up.
Make sure we talk about it.
They also mention about making Alexander exciting. One of my biggest gripes with Alexander. I mean, inside Alexander, it's okay, right? It's fine. But it has nowhere near the story impact that Coil had. The whole transition of 1.0 into 2.0 was because of the Coil. And so now it's just like there's like a big robot and some goblins and maybe some time stuff, and there's an Aura, because Aura are new, and we want Aura to be important somehow.
There's a cat.
There's a cat. This goblin has a cat. Yeah.
The last cutscene on Alexander, so on M4 or whatever, was interesting. I was like, okay, you know, now it's like now you're starting like, you know, but it's hopefully all of, and I guess they're talking it the creator, so we might say C1 through 4. Hopefully C1 through 4 really has me invested in figuring, you know, like diving into that.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where the story goes. I mean, right now the story's just been so boring for me, and it's just like I get, okay, you know, Alexander is like a goblin primal, right? Because it's it makes sense, right? But I cannot care about these characters that are involved with it, and I think even more important than that, I mean, not to say that that's not, because it's a very important thing, but I think right above that, just the overall impact that that story has just with the world. I mean, obviously, Bahamut just, you know, reshaped, you know, the entirety of Eorzea. Yeah. And now he's down here, like, chilling with, like, Nail Vandarnis. Like, you know, there's like, a lot of crazy stuff that happens with that's really integrated with the story. Whereas Alexander's kind of a side thing. Now, I think if it had more of a role in the main scenario quest, or, you know, if there was something, you know, if he was in, like, the CG intro for Heaven's Word or something, right, and have it, like, really woven into things, then it would make me care a little bit more.
And they're missing, like, that moment, like, from 9, you know, where they had Bahamut and Alexander, you know, at Alexandria, like, there's Isgard. It's similarly shaped, you know.
There you go.
Have Alexander shoot a beam that way, you know. Like that's...
But what like they're gonna do
right now, he doesn't feel like a threat.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, he's like every so often his belly rumbles and like he'll take a step out of the pond. Like, that's about it. But what they're gonna do to try and make this last tier of Alexander a little more exciting is they're gonna have some unique elements in the final fight, and Yoshida's kind of hinted that it's going to play with the idea of the manipulation of time, because that's kind of what Alexander is all about. We don't know what that's going to be. We don't know what kind of effects there's going to be. That's all we know. Hopefully this story will also kind of pick up and, you know, conclude with you know, kind of go out with a bang, but you know, we'll see what happens with that. The other interesting
they made. Oh, sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, so, you know, then in the interview with Nova Chrysalis, they're talking about some items of the feast. So a couple, you know, interesting points to note is that they're thinking about making like either the feast available, or at least competitive feast available for during kind of prime time periods for the various data centers, which they think that, and they're just kind of toying around with that idea. And I guess they're listening to our feedback. I went and posted on that topic, and I said, well, I mean, that's fine. But I was like, maybe keep it open all the time. But if you want that happy hour, or that like happy, you know, that happy period of time, kind of where if anybody's done the Titanfall Alpha, they have the concept of, you know, happy hour. So okay, this hour you're gonna get, you know, double or triple. You know, just like, well, you could also incentivize that time with rewards that might be specific for that time to help. Oh, it's, you know, it's 8 o'clock.
I'd be happy with like double win counts or something, because there's no for all PvP, because I think I'm sitting at like 10 wins for Flames for front lines. I'm never getting that damn horse. I'm never getting the ADS mount. I'm never going to get any of these things unless there's some kind of bonus win campaign for PvP.
But if it was during a certain period of time where you got that bonus, it's like, oh, you know, hey, this is what I want to go do. So that was my suggestion. But I mean, this also would be kind of the thing, like, hey, this is the block of time. This is the content that's available, and it could spur that incentive. And they also talked about, and Yoshi P also talked about, you know, still in PvP, that he is willing to make a kind of a PvP dedicated server where I guess you could have open combat.
I thought that was
the dev cost might be pretty high or something like. Well, and that's one of the things that I've actually like, either like just dedicated PvP server, or even like a dedicated hardcore server where like a simple, like just a single mob out in the open world could destroy you. You know, it's like, it would be interesting to see them play with those kind of mechanics, because the question is would people be interested and go to it? And I don't think they can figure out that answer until they actually invest.
And I think part of the problem too is, I mean, like Yoshida said, the idea of doing a PvP or a survival server, just with stuff right now, just with the system with fates, that would be a giant, you know, you're trying to do a fate and some guy just comes up and kills you, or you know, stuff like that, and its implementation is going to be costly. but then you would also have to maintain it going forward with new content, and that's like running multiple games. If you're doing multiple world rule sets, that's not that's not going to be easy for anybody. I think it's probably a little impractical at this point. But I do think having the feast be at specific times, the reason for that, I don't know if we mentioned it, was to have better queue times, because right now, I mean, for anybody trying to do PvP, Frontlines, Feast, whatever, queue times take forever. And this was, something we'd even asked about a while ago, and he said he's, experimenting with some ideas, but I don't think it's right to have it locked into a specific time, because people have different schedules. They're not going to necessarily have, maybe they work nights. They're not going to be able to do the feast because they'll be at work or something, something like that. There's always going to be somebody that can't do it for whatever reason. And I think to kind of lock that out would be bad. But I think having an incentive, I think, would be the right way to go, whether that's, a few more tomes or, some extra gil or, something during a specific time. I think that's the way to go.
On the counterpoint, just so for anybody who's interested, is that what they've also seen is that people who might get a lead in their PvP rank will not then be playing during those prime times. They'll be playing during off times where the competition isn't as strong. And so when you're talking about that ranking, it's like, well, they're playing during 1 in the afternoon, so they'd be getting matched against just a bunch of people who might not necessarily be working as hard to be in that upper echelon rank. And so there is definitely it'll be interesting to see how they approach it. And obviously they're what this does, what this communicates to me as somebody who likes doing PvP, is that they're continually investing in it. They're very interested in it, and they're going to keep working on it until they find that and they strike that appropriate balance. But it's kind of there is a bit of trial and error that they've got.
Yeah. Last thing here from our friends over and over Crystallis. Because of the information that Square Enix needs from live stream subscribers in order to pass along in-game items, there's been some legal conflicts. I guess, you'll have a provider like Twitch is kind of the example that they gave. Twitch doesn't want to share some of that customer information, which, I can understand.
Makes sense.
So they are not using Twitch for FanFest streams this time around. They're currently looking for a streaming partner. We don't know who it's going to be. Additionally, and this was a big thing last time around, they are going to look to have an additional streaming partner for the Japanese FanFest in addition to Nico, because Nico is such a pain in the ass. It's really hard to try and give money to subscribe to the JP FanFest stream last time. So we don't know where it's going to be, if it's, but they're still looking at that. So hopefully we'll have something for that soon. And last but not least here, we have a couple bits from DualShockers. 4.0 main scenario quests are done, and they're now recording voices. Yoshida met with Microsoft a week before Gamescom started, and it's I feel bad. I know Brian's probably gonna cry himself to sleep over this. So a while back we had talked about this several times. We've asked Yoshida about it several times, and finally Microsoft is like, we're gonna do cross-network play and Rocket League, and it'll be great. Apparently, there are still some regulations in place that Yoshida says are not good for MMO, so it's still not there yet, even though it kind of is to us. We think, oh, it's great, it's good to go. No, not really.
The good side of this, so it's yes, oh, God, are you serious? But the good side is that they're still talking. It's not
it's not really,
no, they said, and they were like, oh, and then we're not done. It's so they've got another meeting planned for Tokyo Game Show. Yep. And I hope, and I'm if I could sit here and just say, tell Microsoft, it's we want to play with our friends, please make that happen. I would totally make concessions on, if you got to be gold, subscribe. Now, they said that when ESO was coming out, that you could be silver and play ESO online, because at that time it was planned to be a subscription game. And it's okay, so maybe we'll get some leeway there, but it'd be really cool, if through Microsoft, through the Xbox, players could manage their subscription like they can do in Steam. I could see that would be fine, but I want to be able to play with PC, PlayStation, PS3, whatever, NX. Man, that would kick ass.
And I think part of those regulations might be too, and it was something that people kind of noticed when the cross network play stuff came out, is that there's potentially still an option to play with Xbox only players. I think that might be the thing that's holding it back right now.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody who would be getting this game would only want to party with or only want to play with Xbox only owners.
Right.
I don't think that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. New DODM and exploratory missions are coming in 3.5. So please look forward to it. I think they wanted to get it done for 3.4, but it's just not possible. So what they're kind of doing in the meantime is they're going to tweak DODM currently. And then we'll have a new exploratory mission for 3.5. And then this kind of ties in with all the other PvP stuff. They asked if you could provide a figure for the amount of people that were participating in the feast, and he didn't want to give a figure out, which is usually a sign that it's not good. But he did say that he feels that there could be more people participating in the feast. And so that, I think, is kind of why, they're looking at, having specific times to do the feast or... stuff like that, so that they can have more people, encourage more people to do it.
More maps, custom games, spectator.
Yeah.
A lot of those things are definitely going to help contribute. I think the rewards should definitely be reviewed and re-incentivized, because it's like, okay, all right. Well, there's no way I'm going to be able to make the top tier now. It's like, well, why not go ahead? It's like, play this many matches and X. Who knows?
Yeah.
Lots of options. It's really fun. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
The feast is some of the most fun I've had, and once they have the customs come out where we can kind of just run in with crazy makeups, like, let's just all go black mage and see what happens. That sounds like it's going to be really exciting, as opposed to the competition side of it, where it's if you think on Overwatch, it's like we did a match on that, and it was like everybody was playing a healer and we couldn't kill anybody. Okay, that's interesting.
My favorite, I don't know, are you playing on console or PC?
Console.
Ah, boo. There was not to get off track too much, they had they do special matches like every week. They had one where it was Mercies and Pharahs. Everyone's just flying around and nobody can hit each other because everybody's got rockets. It was so great. I love that. All right, that'll take us into the live letter last night during the 14-hour broadcast. They did a 31st letter from the producer live, where they talked a little bit about what is coming in 3.4, which is titled Soul Surrender. And this is going to come out on September 27th. So.
Yeah, which is pretty typical to how they announce it. So we get the name on the patch, and we get a release date. And so Yoshi P earlier was talking about before the live letter. That 3.4 would be in September. This was really great. September 27th makes me go, awesome that 15 was delayed. I'm sorry for everybody who was disappointed by that. This works out really well for me because I got to get that new gear, which looks amazing.
So lots of stuff coming with this. We have new main scenario quests, obviously. We're going to go kind of full-on Warriors of Darkness with this patch, if you couldn't tell from the artwork they put out with this already. We haven't
seen that. We haven't seen them in a while, so
we saw them a little bit at the end of the last patch. Maybe they were going to go cliff diving for various round items or something, without spoiling too much. But I thought this was interesting. The new main scenario quests are going to revolve around Alphino and Alisaie, which we haven't seen for a while now.
Since really the Binding Coil.
Yeah, and so what's really interesting about this is they say that there will be different text in these quests depending on if you have beaten the final coil or not. And so I think that's really cool.
That's what I'm going to have to do before September.
Yeah, I need to get around that too.
Yeah, you got it.
At least I can run it unsynced. So it's like I'm going to get a group. We're going to go in with I-240. Take it.
There you go. Yeah. I know I'm slacking. I got to find a group to go and do it with. Additionally, though, we're going to get new Scholastic quests. We're going to get new Hildebrand adventures, and we'll get some more Anima stuff in patch 3.45. There's this whole patch, and I think we kind of hinted at this earlier. There's a lot of really good stuff that people have been wanting here for a long time. One of those is recast times for action timers going to reset in battles. So if you are doing a raid or something, y'all wipe. You don't have to wait for your timers. They'll be good to go.
God. And if we abuse it, though, they will review.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. So just
be cool.
Be good about it. Be nice. Use it how it's intended. Don't try and game the system, please.
Will thank you. I hate waiting for that. Oh my god.
The next one. This is actually a pretty big change. I got a feeling that there's a lot of people just between these next two there's going to be a lot of kind of pros and cons, I think, against some of these. But auto attack system changes, so you'll be able to execute auto attacks regardless of where you're facing, which right now you have to be facing them out for your auto attacks to execute. Also with that, there's changes to face targeting, so face target feature will become inaccessible while moving, and for casters, if the enemy moves, your character will face the direction of the target's current position. And now this is the big one: you need to sheath your weapon or cancel target to stop attacks. So it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't want to hit him right now, I'll just turn around. No, you have to sheath your weapon, or you have to completely back off. And so I got a feeling right now, just in some of that content, right after this patch goes live, people are going to be doing, like they'll be fighting Ozma or something, they'll get the dice, I'll just turn around, it'll be great. Why did I die? I don't understand. Well, they changed things. What do you mean they changed things? I didn't. Well, it's in the patch notes. If you would read the patch notes, you would understand. So I got a feeling that's going to cause a little bit of commotion. That'll take a little bit for people to kind of get used to. I also talked about some new, not new, but X-Primal fights getting added into the Raid Finder. They specifically mentioned Thordan.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that maybe Nidhogg might get thrown in there too. The kind of the newest ones.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
Or maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe it's one of those things where Thordan is still kind of new-ish, but maybe not a lot of people are doing it, so maybe that's why it's going to Raid Finder.
Right.
That could be. And additionally, they're going to add a countdown feature. So if you're like me and you're sick of those tanks when you get into a trial queue, they're like, all right, I'm going to have this 10-line macro that's saying 1, 2, it's counting down to when I'm going to walk in with sound effects in each line. There's a countdown feature that's going to be coming. So thank you for that.
Big numbers on your screen, not in your chat log, on your screen.
Yeah.
It's going to be helpful.
Yeah. Well, they had that back in 1.0. They had a countdown feature.
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
It's coming. They're bringing it back.
I'm telling you, this is the Alexander podcast. It's which I have a good time, baby.
It's all this time stuff. Speaking of Alexander, the new raid section here for Alexander is going to be called Alexander the Creator. And they put out a couple images of this. I don't know what this weird purple guy is.
Faust, the return. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like it's outside. I'm not sure, or maybe it's just really steamy. I don't know, because you can kind of see the wing from the final Alexander form in the background. So I'm thinking it's outside. I have no idea what's going on in this picture, but it looks pretty cool. Additionally, we're gonna get a new trial, which is actually not how I thought they were gonna go. I was thinking they would do the Fiend next for the Warring Triad, but they're actually going to do the Goddess Sophia in Containment Bay P1 T6. I wonder if they just type out letters or something when they name these containment bays. They're always P1 T6, 5SQ2, whatever. They are still working on the graphics a little bit. Hopefully we'll see something at Tokyo Game Show for Sophia the Goddess from the Warring Triad. This next one is actually really cool. They talked about new dungeons. We're going to Zelfasol.
Yeah. Which
whoa.
is a whole region, and so I guess it's as part of that.
It's just so it's the biggest dungeon we've ever had. It's just
the largest dungeon.
But yeah, and I put the map up here so people can kind of see. So Zelfasol is right north of Gridania there, and so it will kind of be the furthest east I think that we'll have gone so far. Kind of hugging, Garabania there with Alamigo, so it's pretty close in there. Another thing too that we wanted to mention as well is we saw this, things Zelfasol, and we kind of had this thought of the concept art that came back in the PowerPoint from a million years ago,
October 2011.
Yeah. It was funny because I thought about this screenshot, and I think, was it Charles or Brett? Which one of you found it?
Brian.
Dug it up? Brian, okay, so Brian dug it up. And I was like, yeah, do you have a link so I can copy it over there? And he sends me the PowerPoint document from like when 2.0 was announced, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot all about this thing. It's pretty crazy.
It's so interesting to go back and read that, and you should definitely include the link in the show notes just so people can that or they can Google. But it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I remember this. I remember because it's like I remember when I was like, oh, that's going to be so good, and it was like wasn't like this. It really met and exceeded a lot of my expectations.
Yeah. So what we know of Zelfatol, I mean, there's a lot of canyons and stuff like that. I mean, you can kind of see in this picture here. It looks like it gets cut off in the middle there, but there's kind of like a balloon hanging thing. Looks like there's some chasms or canyons or something going on. So maybe, it's like we said earlier. They're introducing spectator mode to PvP after it was announced in the 6th live letter back in years and years and years ago. So maybe this is something they've been planning for a long time, because even in the artwork here it says it's a temple within the main Ixali stronghold planned for release with version 2.0. So maybe not quite, but it's possible that something like that. And then also too, along with Zelfatol, we're gonna get Great Ghoul Ball Library hard mode, which I don't think anybody
was
saw
surprising.
coming.
I was like, oh, that's awesome. We'll start seeing maybe more of those, the 3.0 dungeons, get that kind of treatment.
Yeah,
and we were talking about it before the show, saying like, well, I guess they still have those, but you want some kind of story reason to, or some kind of reason to go back to them, and maybe this will make more sense as opposed, for the story as opposed to anything else that's just happening.
I'm so excited to see, because there's usually a second path you take in the hard mode. What are the books going to be? Because the books in the first Ghoul Ball Library, you're like, oh, I want to click on all these things.
Yeah.
What are they going to say,
And I think, we were talking a little bit before the show. A lot of people are like, oh, well, clearly it's going to stick to the same, kind of pattern, and we'll go to Snowcloak hard mode. But why would we have a reason to go back to Snowcloak? The only reason we went in there is because we needed to go from A to B, and it just happened to be this icy cavern in between when we were doing the main scenario, following Ice Heart around. Right. There's not really a reason to go back to Snowcloak. And so I think, where we are in the story right now, given, the name of the patch, right, Soul Surrender, I got a feeling we're probably going to be going back in there digging for information, maybe, trying to save a certain blonde person that keeps finding herself in various predicaments, or maybe researching the Warriors of Darkness. Right. That's the nice thing about the patch is it can allude to so many different types of things, right?
What would be interesting to see is that what if Zepatol was the kind of the side dungeon like Hullbreaker was in 3.3, and the Great Library Hard was a story dungeon. That it was like, okay, we need to go back in and find this.
I have a feeling that they might both play.
They could
into it. I think, just given kind of Zelfatol's geographical location, it's depending on if we're like on the just the western part of Zelfatol, or if we're kind of in the middle-ish, because that technically we could end up being the furthest east on that world map than we've ever been, if in that Zelfatol dungeon. It's getting closer to kind of on the border there with Garabania and Alamigo. But at the same time, I think the library played a kind of a big role in the Heaven's Word storyline. I think, it could come back and do this, not to like try and reuse stuff. It's like, we need a thing from the library, go to the library, right. But, that might work. And I think it's cool too. And I forgot to queue up the image for it. There's a picture of the demon book. But the demon is now out.
He's broken
of the
out
book.
The pages.
Yeah. So whoever is cast, or maybe he finally was able to pull him. He's like, from the time in the main scenario for 3.0 when we first fought him, he's been just slowly trying to pull himself out of the book. And finally he gets there, and then we show up, and he's like, "Oh, damn it! Like I'm so tired. I just got out of this book. Just give me 5 minutes." So yeah, I'll be curious to see what's involved with that. And then PvP, I know we talked a little bit about this. Brian, you want to go down the official list here?
So we're getting a dual mode, and it's going to be in a public area in the Wolves Den. So it's not instance. You can challenge somebody and they can accept. So they've talked about having, again, this was a conversation from a long time ago about getting it. But I guess the thing is Andrew and I are on the same page. Well, why also not Ulda? There's the Coliseum there. Why can't
they have this. I get okay, we'll put it in the Wolves Den because that's like the little PvP hub in the world. But there's this perfectly good Coliseum in Ulda that no one's really using. So
I'm happy we're seeing it. I hope we get it to be where you can just challenge and accept a duel, from anywhere, and then you could have a setting that says, "Hey, I don't want to see challenge requests."
Well, I think my concern with this, right? If it's just this little public area in the Wolves Den, how does it handle? Do you just stand in a line? Like if there's a lot of people that want to try it, I don't understand how that'll work.
Yeah, it'll be either that you have to be in this area before so you can challenge and accept, and either a lot of people will be going on, or
they'll have phased instances. There's a million ways to get to it. I don't know what they'll actually do, but I think at some point during the broadcast, and I can't remember during which part, but Yoshida did mention something about. Back in the days of 11, people would have to line up because you would have these BCNMs in areas like Gelsba Outpost where there weren't multiple instances of it. It was there's one location where you can do this fight, one group can go in at a time, and that's it. And so you'll have this line of people just wrapped around the area waiting to go in for their turn.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know if it'll be like that. Realistically, I don't know if they need multiple instances of it. Given how Yoshida seemed to have high praise for all these people that are not doing the feast.
I'm not sure because being on Balmond, I can see this being a place where our peers would congregate as well because there's a lot of 1v1 me type of thing going on. I could see it just being more populated than maybe they think it's going to be. So it might be a problem.
RP,
yeah, did we have that? I don't know if we had that listed in the.
Know that you're role playing. Sorry, what's that? Andrew?
I said I don't know if we actually had that in the notes down here or not.
It's somewhere in there in other features.
But
somewhere.
It's really that's helpful. That's something that I've asked for. It's like okay, if you're going to be playing a character, and let's say your character just happens to be surly or a little bit hard to get along with. Well, it would be nice to be able to, so people could see, okay, well, he's playing a character.
Sure, I see a lot of, I see a lot of people on Balmung and if I'm in this gear, I'm in character. Now you don't have to worry about it. You just, my status is on. I'm in character. Talk to me. I want to RP.
Yeah.
So that'll be, if people want to RP in the Wolves Den, there you go. So it's a double purpose. Custom matches, awesome. So 4v4. Yes. You'll be able to engage in custom matches by having the party leader from one group request a match with another party. Okay, that's pretty cool. I would have liked to see more of a kind of a lobby system where you can hey, I want to create a game, and then people can join in. You can say invite only, or it would be really cool to see a lobby type system brought in for the feast in general, but also for this. But who knows? But this is going to be exciting because they're saying that okay, well, if you're doing a custom game, you don't need to worry about various role restrictions and things like that. So this could be hopefully be a lot of fun. We'll see it'll be neat to see how it's executed. But personally, this sounds like something that I will get into if I can find people who are also wanting to do that. And also it could help kind of for practice and strategy and just trash talking your friends. Spectator mode, this is, obviously they talked about this, I think Fusion was talking about
5-6.
Yeah. A mode allow players to be able to watch matches. This would be able to spectate from the viewpoint of the player. But they talked also about having multiple cameras. And so it'll be interesting to see. And so because I think they've been working towards this because they want to be able to allow people to to Twitch stream and broadcast, maybe do commentaries. And I think this will help also with what they've been doing with Adrenaline Rush TV. It's okay, great. Right. We're going to be spectating, and then we're going to be talking about the match. And look at what this guy did, and this is right. And look at the strategy they're employing. It can hopefully build that excitement up but everything bundled together is really a good investment in the PvP community. So A, you can practice abilities. B, you can practice game types, and C, you can also hopefully build a player and a viewer base for it. But that's kind of what I've got, and what they talked about on the PvP front. with 3.4. So we're less than a month out, and it'll be interesting to see.
Yep. Also, Deep Dungeon, we've kind of known this was coming, but we're going to be getting new floors. We're going to go, I was thinking we'd get a little bit every patch. We're going right to 200.
Ranking it up.
In 3.45. In addition, we're going to be getting that ranking system. Before they had mentioned that it might be only for solo players. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but keep that in mind. And so the story for Palace of the Dead is going to go up to floor 100, and then after that, it's basically just kind of grind-focused elements. It's basically just for those hardcore, mid-core players that want to challenge more content. So something to look forward to with that. Grand Company updates.
Oh, these are so good.
Remember when we used to get these like 4 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
So back in PAX East a couple years ago, we talked to Yoshida about Grand Company stuff, and he had kind of mentioned this idea of like private armies or something. And they announced them finally. They're going to be called, for NA, they're squadrons. It'll be some simulation content that can be enjoyed solo, and it'll involve assembling volunteers to create a squad. And they put out a couple images that you can kind of see up on the stream here. You'll have your group of players. They'll have their own stats and stuff. You can send them out. You'll get company seals in exchange for that, and it looks like you'll get some XP for your platoon, or for your. I keep saying platoon because that's the JP.
Yeah, that's what they say for JP.
You'll get some XP for your squadron, which looks really cool. Additionally, for the first time in did we ever get an update with ranks? Originally, I don't even remember. We're getting new Grand Company ranks finally.
No, we did. They did introduce new ranks, but it was all within what we've got. So it wasn't that. Oh,
I see.
So they slowly trickled it out back in 1.0.
Yeah. So for the first time in A Realm Reborn,
exactly.
we are getting new Grand Company ranks. Of course, with that, we'll get new equipment and stuff as well. But yeah, that's good. And it's
I-55 stuff.
It's funny because I was thinking with this yokai stuff. Which I've given up on. I can't do it anymore. But part of me was like, man, if they are doing, because we kind of had a feeling this was coming, right? All this Grand Company stuff. Like, man, this is a great way to stock up seals before that Grand Company update, doing all these fates. But it looks like you'll be getting seals from these squadron missions as well, so that's really cool. We're also gonna have this is weird. We really don't know much about this. This is called Wondrous Tales, with Thancred's nut-censoring nutkin here on the screen. Basically, it's that little Makote girl from Idle Shire that's been walking around, is involved with this. Adventurers are going to tell her tales about stuff, and she'll give you something. We don't know what it is. There's a book. Yeah. The tales are wondrous. And
it gives you tombstones and money. It looks like.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. It's kind of one of those things where I look at it and I'm almost like, please don't be another one of those like weather sightseeing log things, because it was a cool idea when it came out, and then I tried to do a few, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to. You get an Apkalu minion? No, I'm done. I don't need to do all this crap. But then Heavensward came around. It's like, hey, there's a blue glowing thing. I can just go and get it, and I don't have to worry about getting the exact correct position. And so that was all right. I'm not going to go around and get all of them, with that, but it made it easier. But yeah, I don't know what this is going to do.
Some person I was reading, I can't remember where, was like, oh, wouldn't this be pretty cool if this is how you get Summoner, like Eggy Glamours, because she's got the carbuncles, and I'm like, no, please, no, just give me those.
If you would like your Garuda Eggy to, I thought I turned that phone off. Nice.
To call you in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Killing me, phone.
But yeah, please don't make that how I get the Summoner Eggy Glamours, because I don't want. Just give it to me.
That'd
just
be
give me
random,
give me.
I can just imagine the quest too, because if I'm not saying that is how you get them, right? But I could just see if that's how they were going to do it. there'd be all this dialogue about, I know for you this might seem unnecessary, but it's really important that you go and get me this thing during this type of weather effect at 2 a.m. in central Thanalan. Otherwise, your Garuda Eggy can't look like Bismarck. You know, like
no.
Yeah,
if you want a red carbuncle, you gotta earn it.
Yeah. If it does, that'd be surprising, but I don't see that happening.
Exactly. They're somewhere in 3.4. They didn't say where yet. They're somewhere.
Well, and this is only part 1. We got all of this in part 1, and then we've got part 2, which I think they're targeting for TGS, and it's and then a week, and then 10 days after that, then we've got the patch. So it's wow,
exactly.
Lots of content.
There's a lot of cool stuff coming up here for Gold Saucer as well. They are going to have a special room on each data center, not each server, each data center,
right?
Which is basically a lobby to play Triple Triad with other players that want to play Triple Triad, which I thought was really cool.
Awesome. Smart.
In addition to that, they're also going to kind of go back and tweak Lord of Verminion so you can do it in the Duty Finder, because right now you have to go to the Gold Saucer. You got to just kind of stand around and be like, does anybody want to
I was hoping they would then also say there would be Chocobo racing as well, but sadly, no.
Maybe one of these days. Maybe they're getting around to it. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was a big problem with Lord of Verminion. So hopefully that'll kind of, give a little more interest for players to try that, because a lot of that stuff, it's okay content, right? I'm not saying it's bad, but it's kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, I'll do it for like a week, and it's like, I mean, it was the same thing with Chocobo racing in 11 back in the day. It was popular for a little bit,
right?
And then everybody stopped caring. There was a guy that figured out the algorithm for betting and made a bunch of money. Then they changed it, and nobody cared anymore. Additionally, too, we're gonna be able to buy 3 Jumbo Cactbot cards with different numbers each week, which is nice.
Before 3.1, so this is back from a live letter in last November. So it was like, so they talked about that, and I'm happy to see that.
They're probably like looking at the system, and they're like, "Wow, nobody has won this thing.
Yeah,
we need to do something."
3 chances to get every number, but the last
you have 3 chances to get 42 MGP. New Elegant Tomestones are coming.
Right.
They talked about. I think they dropped the name on the stream. Something along the scriptures. Holy text, I think, was like the JP equivalent. So scripture, something along those lines. We don't have an official confirmation from that. There will be new crafted weapons.
Lore is uncapped because of this new tombstone.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. So
that'll all cycle through as it always does.
Yep.
New crafts and stuff are coming. You can craft weapons this time around as well, and you'll be able to do materia melding on that. So for all those people that have money and like to be the person for one patch that has the really super awesome thing that's melded,
go pentamelded.
Keep an eye out. This is for you.
There you go. Then we got hyphens coming to character names, which is
so they announced the roleplay status option, which is awesome. I know a lot of people have been asking about that for a long time, so we're getting that now. We can add hyphens and names, but I already have a name. Can I go back and change my name now? Is there a way? Right? I think that's a reasonable thing. If they're changing the way that they're doing that, they should give people an opportunity to go back and tweak their names.
That's true.
Maybe. For the hardcore role players, it's like, if you have the roleplay status option on for over 50 hours, we will give you a ticket, and you can go to the hair guy who has also acquired a degree to legally change your name and make you look fabulous.
I'm scared to see Cloud Dash Strife. That scares me a little bit, being on a roleplay server. People are like, "Oh no, look at this name."
I will never forget that Leaf Quest in 1.0. Where you start it, and I can never remember the details of it, but it's, you go and you start, it's like, all right, adventure, you're doing this Leaf Quest, what was your name? XXX Sephiroth XXX. I can never remember, all your names look alike. And I was just like, bravo.
Good job.
Done, sir. Yeah, love that dialogue. But next up, this is something that we've been kind of waiting for as well. We're getting apartments. So
500 G's.
500,000 gil for a room, and I don't know, this number was released earlier. I don't know if it was confirmed. 512 apartments in 3 buildings per server, so it's a total of 1536 rooms. It's a lot of rooms. Obviously already there's people saying it's not going to be enough. It's hard to say. There could be people that just aren't interested. There could be people that are and don't have the money. You know, I'm not saying that it's going to flop. It's going to be great. It'll give rooms to more people that want them at the very least. We'll see what
the pricing
demand
is a little bit more reasonable, because one of the problems
Absolutely.
with housing is like, oh, it's like you need millions and millions of dollars of gil, and it's like, this is like, okay, it's not cheap, but you kind of, you know, it's like
it's one of those things where it's enough that you kind of have to work for it a little bit, and enough that especially just because of how many there will be, it'll be a great way to remove gil from the game. I think as far as availability goes and stuff, we'll have to see how it plays out.
I'm interested to the restrictions, you know, like, are you going to be able to have more than one? If you have a house, are you going to be able to have an apartment? You know, that sort of thing, because that's very contentious.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm roleplay cheating on my in-game bond partner, I mean, I need some place to take my Lalafell mistress and show her a good time.
So if the volume of rooms is accurate, that would pull 768 million gil out of the economy per server. Just like, you know, bye.
But we'll see. I think the thing that's cool too, and they mentioned it. We're showing the picture up on stream. Each one of these apartment buildings, because it's an actual building, has a lobby. So one of the things that I might have mentioned it. I know I at least thought it at the time. I can't prove it, of course, because you don't have a window to the inside of my mind. But one of the things that I've always thought was kind of cool about the housing system was the fact that you do have this neighborhood that you can kind of go around and, you know, you could be next to Bob, and every so often you see Bob outside decorating or gardening or something. You say, hey, how's it going? You know, they had one of the Christmas events was actually using the neighborhoods one year, which I thought was really cool. With apartments, I was like, okay, so at a building, you'll click a door and you'll go into an apartment. No, you actually get a lobby, which I think is pretty cool. So and I'm wondering if that's maybe part of why there could be this kind of limitation on the amount of rooms. If that's so, it's already in one of the housing instances, theoretically, right? Just take a door, just have you go into a room and you click on a door. Just do it like 11 did.
Done.
Charge for it. That's all you need. You don't. I appreciate, right, trying to have this, these lobbies, these neighborhoods. I think it's cool, but at the end of the day, just give people a damn room.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's one of those things. I get it. It's cool, but, and again, with demand and stuff, we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, and so with the apartment, though, just like a couple of notes that aren't in the notes, is that you won't have gardening, but you will have access to a chocobo stable where you can stable one chocobo. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I think that's fair and smart. Mm-hmm. And so, it's interesting to see if, will people be hanging in these lobbies?
Of course, that's still locking that chocobo raising stuff behind a paywall of sorts, though, because, originally they talked about maybe just having the guy in town be able to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Back in the day.
Yeah, or the porter, like you could.
Yeah, they talked about, options for people that weren't in a free company, and well, the option is to now get 500,000 gil for a room, so you can spend even more money on onions to feed to the chocobo that's at your, it's downstairs in the lobby, just sitting there on a thing of grass.
This lobby always kind of smells pretty bad.
And I'm almost wondering if because of the chocobo stuff and and 512 is kind of an odd number too, right? Mm-hmm. So why 512? I don't maybe it's just memory limitations, system limitations. I don't know.
512 is a memory.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's correct. Maybe that's as many chocobos as they could fit into a single, stable when they were testing. Who knows? I mean, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with all that stuff. Additionally, we're getting aquariums.
Yeah.
So
that actually looks pretty cool.
People that fish,
and I think they talked about you can go catch and I guess have that in your aquarium. Mm-hmm. So I think that we'll see when that comes out. The aquariums will probably be pretty expensive whenever people figure out how to make them.
Yeah, we didn't get a lot of details on it, but there will be aquariums. You can put fish in them, or they'll come with fish. And on 11, the way that they worked was they basically just had different kind of types of aquariums where it's like, this is more of like a tropical thing with some tropical fish. This is more of like a lake, kind of environments. I don't know if that'll be the case with these or not, but that'll be really cool to have. Red X0 in the chat. Let's go to the lobbies. I'm thinking the old
go to the
lobby. And raise ourselves a chocobo. We're getting playlist feature for the Orchestrion, which is really nice. It'll have like a shuffle and repeat on it, which is really cool because as much as I do love listening to some of the stuff I have on my Orchestrions, man, does it get old. Just loops and loops. As much as I love like Twilight over Thanalan, man, after that 5th time of just being idle in my house, so that'll be nice to kind of mix it up. I would love it too if they could do something to carry your Orchestrion track over into the workshop as well. That would be really nice. Yeah, that might not be able to happen with the way stuff is made. But anyway, we're gonna get some new furnishings as well. Wall hanging cabinets. And they showed, and for those that were following us on Twitter last night, I saw this cabinet and they had Kalka and Brina dolls on them. My initial thought was minions, right? Oh, we finally have something to put minions on. They didn't confirm that. They didn't mention anything about it, so maybe not minions. But we'll at least have Kalka and Brina dolls or something, it looks like. So it was kind of weird, though, to have that. It's like, yeah, we're going to have like fish tanks and shelves. Yeah. We already have shelves. Why? Like, if you're doing it to plug the Kalka and Brina things, be like, yeah, check these out. It's also on a new shelf. Don't be like, it's a new shelf and we have these new things. Like, there's a way to present that better. Also, English would be better too, but let's see, what else do we have here? Exploratory missions. You're going to be able to queue into the diadem as a Disciple of Land. There's a lot of people that have been going in there just to do harvest and stuff. So that'll be made a little bit easier. They're going to change the exchange rate for spoils, so if you've been saving up for that Pegasus mount, might get a little cheaper. They say though,
exchange them before
they say
if you have spoils, exchange them before 3.0. I missed that. Was that in the official post?
They said it in the digest later on.
Okay. Yeah, so if you do have spoils, exchange them before 3.0. So if you did get that Pegasus mount, never mind. They're also going to add item level 235 equipment. So for one patch, Diadem will be kind of sort of worth doing-ish.
Yeah.
Again.
I think their exact was, the team advises if you still have any, you should probably exchange them before patch 3.4. Don't know what that means.
Maybe they won't have the Pegasus mount anymore, and so you lost your chance if you weren't one of the 5 people that did Diadem.
That might be it.
Then they talked a lot about double cross hotbar. Brian, I know.
Cross hotbars.
I think you might be because Charles, you don't use a controller, right? You do mouse and keyboard.
I do not. No.
Yeah. So as our resident controller user,
I just got this beautiful new Bluetooth Xbox controller.
Nice.
Just the other day as a treat for all the hours I've been
coming to the cross hotbar. It was funny. The abbreviation for this is like WXHB or something like that. And there was a comment I think during the live letter where it's like, localization's like, why would you name it that? Like, okay, W kind of works for double in Japanese, but it's just weird in all the other languages. Yeah. Why would you name it that? But what is the double cross hotbar, Bryn?
Okay.
What's going on with it?
For anybody out there who is obviously not familiar with the cross hotbar, it's essentially being able to have 8 abilities assigned to the right trigger and 8 abilities assigned to the left trigger. So up, down, left, right, A, B, X, Y, or square, triangle, circle, and X act as the actions of those abilities. So it pretty much it works really well. And then they later eventually brought in what was called the expanded cross hotbar, which allows you to hold right trigger and left trigger, and then left trigger and right trigger to have another set of 8 abilities that were kind of hidden away. But it really is quite helpful. And honestly, I think it's a really great system. That's why I play with it. I've really just enjoyed how they've set that up. So what the double cross hotbar actually enables you to do is instead of doing like what I mentioned earlier, L and R or R and L, you can double tap either L or double tap R, and you're going to have then it shift to another either 4 abilities, or they even showed off options where it could expand up to 8 abilities per side. So essentially, you could have 2 additional cross hotbars. So especially this is either adding either another 8 abilities available or up to another 16 abilities.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And the challenge is that that we've talked about it before, going into 4.0, if they don't introduce new skills, they could always introduce skills to be a replacement of what we have. Like here's a more potent or stronger skill or etc. But if they don't introduce the ability to have, like at some point you're going to be like in skill overload. So when they kind of talked about like, yeah, there might be new skills coming, that's when they started talking about, well, we're going to, expand on the controller options. And then they even talked about expanding on the macro options. But I digress. So double tapping L, double tapping R, you have those abilities. And then what they've brought in, what they showed off, and what it was really exciting for me is that you can have various options for the opacity to say, like, whenever you're not on this hotbar, you want it to be faded out. So because it was like one of the easiest things I was like is like, well, am I on this one or am I on this one? So they showed off all the various options that you would have for whenever something isn't selected or is selected, and I'm really excited about checking that out. Now, I did not catch it, and if you guys caught it, let me know. But I did not catch if setting those actions are actually like that hotbar is one of your 8, or if this was if this was a part of like set 1, and then if you had and you shifted over to set 2,
that I don't remember.
I didn't catch that. I was listening for it, but it was also, like I said, late, and so I could have like dozed off just slightly and missed it. So
I know, and
on that yet for me.
I was watching Twitter. I was tweeting out a lot of stuff on the Gamerscape account as it was going on with the live letter. But there was a couple of people that were like, I don't play with a controller, so I'm just kind of tuning out. And I was trying to pay attention, but there was a lot of stuff. I mean, it was
a lot of settings.
It was like 20 minutes of this live letter this is the double cross hotbar and transparencies and how you can do stuff. And it was a little hard to follow. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to it.
It's not enabled by default, and so I'll probably because I've been putting together controller guides on YouTube because I was like, I like the control scheme, but it
and now you have to redo all of them.
Not necessarily. Like on the class guides, it might give me a reason to go back and say, hey, now that I can do this, here's what I've set. But this will be kind of a good video to kind of show off. Though definitely I'll spend some time on. Okay, here's what the settings and here's how you can kind of try to take advantage of it to the best. Now, what's valuable, and so this system isn't actually enabled by default. You have to go turn on the double cross hotbar. But what's valuable as opposed to the expanded hotbar is that but depending on your transparency settings, you can kind of have those abilities visually in front of you. So it will bring to mind like, oh, I want to use that. Now, as to what kind of abilities that I'm gonna put on there, I don't know yet. My first inclination would be maybe a couple of emotes, maybe some like items like potions, ethers, etc. However, that might change, and so I'm looking forward to actually playing around with that. And I want to say the Splatoon system in 3.4 and really kind of get a feel for it. But this is nothing but good for controller players. And it's just going to be a matter of trying to figure out what's the most comfortable and what makes the most sense.
Yeah, there will definitely be a lot of tinkering to be done.
Users are gonna really benefit from this as well.
Definitely. All right, I think that was it for Double Cross Hotbar. A couple of other things that were mentioned towards the end of the live letter here. They showed off some new merch. They showed off some towels and like some teacups and bowls and stuff. They have meteor chopsticks, which obviously we're not getting. I'll let this one slide. I don't even know how to use chopsticks. Anytime me and the wife go out for like Chinese or Korean, I'm like, can I get a fork? Now, if we can get like a meteor fork, that would be awesome. Yeah. I would buy that. But one thing that they did announce was a new Odin figurine. And my favorite thing about this is it has a metal rod that goes from the base right up into Sleipnir's ass so that it stays put. It's not like that stupid Heavensward Sea dragon that can't man, if I was just like a giant ass, like I would take that figure and like go to a Yoshida interview and be like, so my first question is, how does this stay on here? Is this supposed to like, how does this work?
What is the magic?
It was so bad. So hopefully if we get another figure in a 4.0 collector's edition, it'll stay on the damn stand or just be attached to the stand. That would be fine.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool looking Odin statue. It's a little on the pricey side. It is 12,800 yen, so that's roughly $130 ish. It will come with a in-game bonus of a Zantetsuken emote.
What is that? I want to know.
I don't know.
Please.
It is everything you would picture a $120 emote to be, I guess. I don't.
That's an expensive emote.
Yeah. But the good news is we will be able to get this here in NA, and we will be able to get this at FanFest in Vegas in October.
Oh, cool.
Pre-orders for the figure itself started in Japan today. But we'll be the first to pick it up at FanFest. So if you're going to FanFest and you want it, bring a lot of money and bring a big suitcase, because it's not huge.
You haven't spent enough money on it already.
Yeah, it's not huge, but it is a decent size, so as it ought to be for the price. But so there you go. Keep an eye out for that. That'll be pretty cool. I might get one. I'm tempted. I have this nice little now I keep joking with a friend of mine. One of the greatest things I got after getting married was my wife's Shadow Lord statue from Final Fantasy XI sitting on my desk here. I feel like it needs a buddy. So maybe I'll pick one up. We'll see. Additionally, back at E3, they had talked about, they were talking about FanFest, we'll get the Final Fantasy X minions if we attend or subscribe to a stream. Additionally, there was going to be a costume that you'd be able to get. They did announce the costume. You will be able to get a Titus or Yuna costume for your character in game, depending on if you go or get a stream whenever they decide what stream they're going with
for the costume. Yes. But you do have to pick one. I guess if you you attend, get a stream or whatever, that you can pick the other one as well, depending. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not that you'd be able to necessarily use it, if you have like all male characters or whatever, but it's one of those things, right, where it's like, well, I have to have both, but you can't use both, but I have to have both.
Exactly.
I think that's what they call a problem.
Yeah, if you attend, or once they figure out what kind of stream provider they're going to use for this stuff, that's how you'll get it. So in-game item will be delivered to all characters on the same service accounts. That's pretty cool. So that is it for the live letter. Something I did want to point out, though, when the stream started, they went through a lot of the devs. They were just kind of talking about things. And Oda-san made an appearance. For you, those of you who don't know, Oda-san is the world lore creator. We've talked to Koji Fox. We've had him on Lorecast a few times talking about just a lot of lore stuff. We out in PAX East, we talked to him specifically about the lore book. And so Oda-san actually had a few pages from the lore book. This is the first time we've been able to kind of get a glimpse at it. It looks pretty cool. You can't really, it's just big enough to make out some stuff and look cool, but not big, small enough to not be able to read anything. But yeah, definitely looking forward to this. If plans haven't changed, this should also be available at the North American Fan Fest. So be prepared to spend a lot of money if you're going to Vegas. Not just because you're going to Vegas, but because you're going to Fan Fest with a whole bunch of new merch. So I'm going to need a backpack just for merch, I think, at this point. So yeah, keep an eye out for all that cool stuff coming. We have the recap written up of the live letter on our website. We got a couple of the extra stuff, pictures and whatever shown as well that aren't in the official forum digest. So make sure to go ahead and check all of that out. Next up, we had patch 3.38 drop last week. And man, that nerf.
Are you mad or are you happy?
I, having completed that stage of the relic, I'm a little upset. I'm a little pissy. And it's funny because it's something that, and it sucks because we were talking about something earlier. I'm like, oh, that's a really great thing I should bring back up, and now I can't remember what it was. It was, making things easier and more.
Yeah.
Raids and stuff, right? Maybe some people still want that challenge. But yeah, it's one of those things where I get it, right? Like, people are coming in, they want to get. I think what they should do is, if they want a great weapon, an easy weapon, have them do Palace of the Dead. Yeah. Right? Have them get a crafted weapon. Make it worth getting still, and not because there's a lot of people. I mean, I was kind of bitching and moaning about this a little bit when the patch notes went live, but there were a couple people like, I just finished this last week. Like, come on, right? Like, and so it's one of those things.
That sucks for them.
I get why they do it, right? Don't get me wrong. I get why they do it.
Well, I mean, this is par for the course. This isn't they've
done it before.
Do it.
Exactly.
This is part of kind of that process.
I think the reduction is more than they've done in the past.
I think so too.
I wanted to go back and try and look at patch notes and find stuff. I didn't have enough time to do it, but I feel like the reduction in cost is significantly lower than stuff for the relic weapons has been in the past. But
yeah,
I think going forward, what would be really nice is, because we all know that this stuff is going to happen, right? But we don't know when, and we don't know the degree of, or the reduction of the changes. I think it'd be really cool if we could have something that says, okay, here's the weapon now. This patch, we're going to reduce it by X. So if you're getting closer to, if you're casually working on it or whatever, this is, when it's going to change, so you don't have to like kill yourself to get it done before then, or I think that would be a little nicer, because right now my example that I was kind of thinking of is like housing, right? You don't buy the plot, it slowly reduces, or maybe have something like that where it slowly reduces. But I don't know, it's one of those things, it's kind of like, oh, really? But like, what can you do, right? That's how it is. We knew it was coming. Yes, but it's still a bit of a kick in the pants.
Pretty interesting as like an analog, the other big giant thing that exists. They're doing, artifact weapons in their next expansion, and they're talking about catch-up mechanics as well. And, they have this is how it's going to work, but we're not going to tell you exactly when, because they're like, people are like, well, why would I do it before that then? Why would I ever do it? I'll just wait till the end. And maybe they're trying to stop that, but more information is better than no information.
Right.
I always think, And,
and like I said, too, it's not that we necessarily didn't have the information. We knew, right? We knew it was coming. Right. We knew it was going to be a thing that happened at some point, but we didn't know when. We didn't know what the changes would be. And of course, on the other side of that too, devs don't know when exactly they're going to do it, when it's going to, so it's maybe there's a middle ground that we can kind of find so that, there's a little less enmity about it.
I'm on a completely another side of the fence, because I was like, oh cool, they nerfed it. I'm still not doing it. I just know I'm not doing it.
I'm slowly working on it. Maybe I'll
it.
Go ahead and finish up what I've been, because I've been slowly working on it. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and just.
I'm slowly working on my sands. I think at some point I'll get around to doing it.
Right.
I don't think I'm ever gonna grind it, but eventually it'll get done. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yokai weapons, on the other hand, that I'm done. Nope. I'm done with. The other day I sat down. I'm like, you know what? I'll try and do another weapon. Like 8 fates or something later. I didn't have any of the. I got like 1 legendary medal. I'm like, it ain't worth it. It's just it's. Events should be fun. Events shouldn't be repeat grindy stuff that we've already had to do. I understand the reasoning. Oh, they want to make it challenging to get or harder to get. Well, it's not challenging or hard. It's annoying and RNG based. I feel like they keep treating RNG as a game mechanic, right? Yeah. For difficulty, and it's not. It's just annoying. But
I guess it just takes a little bit more work and design to be like, okay, you can do this. You can also do that. It's like, and we saw that where they were giving us especially with Anima and the new relic, is that you have all these different kind of paths. Like you can get your items by using tomes, or you can go and you can get
tomes
them,
or Palace of the Dead with 3.4. You can get a crafted weapon now. There's a lot of paths to do it. The problem with me, and I think I had mentioned this too with Palace of the Dead, that I thought it was the item or the weapon that you can bring out of Palace of the Dead. I thought it was too high, given the content. Of course, I'm like 4 full runs of Deep Dungeon in. I still don't have the damn weapon, because RNG is a game mechanic that makes things challenging. So there's multiple ways to get weapons. I guess the benefit of the Anima stuff is you put a little bit more time into it and you can customize it a little bit. I think that's probably the way that they're looking at it, where how it kind of makes it better. But
it all rolls back into the who's raiding, who's not raiding, because none of these weapons are useful if you're not trying to raid anyway.
That's
sure they'll help out a little bit, but
it's like, I gotta get this weapon and do this. Oh, really cool. How far are you in Alexander Savage? I tried A1. So
it's kind of, I don't know what to do about the whole balance of that.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball game there. So I think that'll cut it. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to pitch in here about Anima nerfs?
No.
Okay.
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Cool. PAX West 2016 is coming up. 14 not there. There's no battle challenge. There's no panel. There's nothing. Just a lot of 15. So if you were...
When's PAX West?
PAX West is the September 2nd to the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, they just had this and they got TGS. That would be pretty tough.
Well, yeah, and it sucks too, because like, well, a lot of people are like, wow, it's too close to FanFest. I'm like, well, they just had Gamescom. Like, they're going to have TGS. I mean, I guess for that country, it's not close. I don't know, whatever. It's a little bit of a bummer, but then again, back at E3, the Sephiroth Battle Challenge was literally just 8 computers. It was one little station at the corner of the booth. Whereas before it's been like the booth, but now it's like
the whole thing. Yeah,
come get a shirt. I walked around the booth like once. I'm like, where is the? I couldn't find it.
It was like front and center the year before. Yeah.
I mean,
well,
it was
the year before
the
they had
the
expansion. So it's like you have a lot of news, you have a lot of hype. You got, here's a new expansion. So we'll probably see that level back at it, assuming we're on next the same trajectory with 4.0 to kind of release in June.
Well, what it is though, it's really at the end of the day, what it is it's 15. 15's coming out.
Yeah,
they need 15 to make money. So
you don't want to start to draw eyes off that. Like, that's you don't want to compete against yourself.
Yeah, so the year before it was like Hitman Go and Dead Island or something. That's all the Square Enix booth had. And
I was there. I remember Dead Island. I was excited for that game when I played it at E3, and then it came out.
Nah.
And then it came out. But anyway, there's somebody listening to that like made Dead Island. Like,
oh yeah, exactly.
You didn't like my game? What the hell? But if you are going to PAX West, there is a lot of Square Enix stuff going on. There's a 15 panel. There is a World of Final Fantasy panel. There's some Tomb Raider stuff. I think there's a Deus Ex panel. 15 has its own booth. I think they're giving away like shirts every day, kind of like they did at I think it was Gamescom. You play the demo each day, you get a different shirt with like the 8-bit pixel kind of characters on it. The shirts are all different colors, stuff like that. So if you're going, the schedules are posted online, so make sure to check that out. And then additionally, we'll be there at PAX West. Me and our lead reviews guy, Josh, is going to be there. Just kind of covering general game stuff. We'll probably do some Final Fantasy 15 stuff. We got some interviews lined up, so keep an eye out on the site for that stuff. And I want to remind people again here too, we have a contest going on right now on what you would do to change a primal. And this isn't like mechanic stuff. It's like, well, I would make Ifrit dash around a little more, and maybe some more. No, it's I want
a jazzy lounge singer.
Yeah, it's making Bismarck like the god of snacks, or having Ravana be like the world's best like fried rice chef, or something just completely out there. We asked this question to the team, community team, Yoshida and Koji. Koji's just. He had like all of them running a burger joint. It was his answer was ridiculous. But check that out. The post is up on the website. The contest post is up on the website. Basically, we just want you to email us, aetheryradio@gamerscape.com. Let us know how you would change a primal. And at some point here, we don't have a set date for when we're going to end this yet, just because we don't have a set schedule for the shows right now, just because of when information is coming out. We will obviously let everybody know once we decide that. But for now, make sure to get stuff in. We've only gotten a few entries so far, so right now your chances are really good. If you win, we're going to pick 3 winners. You can win a bag from E3, a big Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward bag, and an I Beat Sephiroth t-shirt signed by Naoki Yoshida. So details are on the website, gamerscape.com. Make sure to check that out. And I think, unless we have anything else, that is it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much... Oh, I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
Guys, I have all the information you want on 4.0. I've been saving it for now.
I'm just still happy about the cooldown reset. Like, I don't even care anymore. Yeah. Like, that's 3.4 right now. That's all I need.
Did we even mention...
The 2 things for the 3.4 are like the Splatoons and the double cross hotbar. So.
Oh my gosh. Did we? I forget. We didn't even mention Blitzball, did we? I feel like we just kind of glazed right over it. Yeah. So back at E3, they had already announced the minions for FanFest. Which were all the Final Fantasy X minions, and I kind of asked him, like, is there a reason that they're all Final Fantasy X minions? And Yoshida told me that we'll have to wait till FanFest to see. Well, of course, now we have the glamour outfits coming up, and those are also Final Fantasy X. So either the entirety of our time on Heidelin has been a dream from the faith, or I think we're getting Blitzball. it, kind of helps sell that blitzball idea that we're throwing around a little bit more. There's a post on there kind of talking a little bit about it, but we'll see. Maybe that's a way to get people into PvP, right? Have a casual game thing, and then they're like, oh, but I want to like fight now too. So maybe that's that's the way that they're going to incentivize the feast a little bit, right? At blitzball.
We'll see.
That'd be cool. We've already talked. I think last episode before we talked a lot about that. So
if
you want to hear more blitzball discussion, we'll try not to overdo it with the blitzball.
Yeah.
We're just like hyping up everybody for blitzball, and then FanFest is gonna come around and be like, so we're adding Tetramaster. It's like, damn it. That's not what we wanted.
Aetheryte Radio.
I wanted blitzball. Aetheryte Radio said that we were getting.
It's just wishful thinking.
Right. For those tuning in to Twitch right now live, if you guys would like, we'll take a couple minutes here after the end of the show to answer any questions that you guys have for us or about whatever. So start typing those out. There's always a little bit of a stream delay. So if you have questions for us, let us know. Type them in the chat. We'll get to those in just a minute. For the rest of you here tuning in, if you would like to get a hold of us, you can email us at aetheryteradio@gamerescape.com. You can tweet at us at Aetheryte Radio, and of course we have our Twitter at Gamerescape and Gamerescape on Facebook as well. If you want to get a hold of us, make sure to check out the site, the wiki. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about it already, but just in case, make sure to enter our Primal contest. Win yourself a really cool autographed shirt. Not a lot of people, have an autographed Seth Rod shirt, so it'd be something. Frame it on your wall, or wear it to FanFest or whatever.
Yeah.
And
it's like you signed this, and then I won it.
Yeah. So I won this, and you signed it on the front. Could you also sign it on the back?
Or get the most important signature, which is Koji.
There you go. They're gonna be just swamped at FanFest, man. You'll know when they're on the floor, because it'll be like Pokemon Go. You'll just see this whole wave of people running. I'm like, what's going on? Is there like a Chatini? No, Yoshida's out. Oh, okay.
Oh, get him.
So that'll do it for this episode of Aetheryte Radio. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
See ya.